morning, America, and welcome to the CBS 9 o'clock news.
Today we have a special broadcast of what people are now calling the British invasion.
And with so many bands such as the Rolling Stones and the Beatles becoming more popular here in the U.S., an important question comes to the light. Will British musicians and bands begin to dominate the music industry?
With that being said, we go to Fiorella, who has gotten an exclusive interview with one of the upcoming British bands who call themselves the Beatles.
Good morning, Lily. I'm here with John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
George Harrison and Ringo Starr really wanted to be here today, but they're currently doing an interview with ABC News.
Anyways, you're from Liverpool, right?
Yeah, that's actually where we formed our band in January.
Oh, that's interesting. So how did you guys actually start your band?
Well, in March of 1957, I actually formed a small skill group with a few friends of mine from Quarry Bank School. We called ourselves the Quarrymen. Then my good friend here, Paul, joined as our rhythmic guitarist that July.
Oh, wow, that's actually a nice way to start.
Yeah, it is. I remember that a few months later you invited George to come watch us play.
Oh, yeah. Well, I asked him to come watch our band. He just loved our music. He kept asking if he could join the band. I personally thought he was too young to join, but after a few months of begging, I finally let him be our lead guitarist.
And how did Ringo join the band?
Well, that's actually an interesting story.
He actually filled in for our previous drummer, Pete Best. After doing a few performances, we decided to keep him as our permanent drummer.
Oh wow, that's an interesting start. So what happened next? How did you boys get discovered?
Well, we were performing at a regular club of ours, the Cavern Club, and we encountered Brian Epstein. He told us he liked our music and that we had a star quality. He guided us and mentored us for a few months, and we soon made him our manager. He tried to get us out of our problem place by getting us auditions with different recording studios.
Unfortunately, we were rejected by a few recording studios before George Martin signed us to EMI's Parlophone label.
What was your first single with this recording label?
Well, after a few recordings of Love Me Do, Please Please Me, and P.S. I Love You, we decided to choose Love Me Do as our first single.
Oh, I love that song.
Was that your first number one hit?
Actually, our first single was Please Please Me.
So who writes these songs?
Well, as we were progressing with our musical career, Paul and I established a songwriting partnership.
So, with your quickly rising fame, did you guys run into any complications?
Yes, we did. I actually remember our manager coming to us one day and telling us we had to establish a more professional appearance.
He told us that if we wanted to perform in actual arenas, we were going to have to stop swearing, smoking, and eating off stage in our performances. We were also going to have to wear different clothing on stage.
Wow, so you guys had to completely change your image?
Not really. We began wearing trousers on stage instead of jeans. We were still able to keep our own sense of individuality.
So what was your first album?
Introducing the Beatles.
What a creative name.
So what happened after the release of your first album?
The fans went crazy over our music. We did 3 tours in the UK, and every city we performed, crazy screaming fans greeted us.
I remember the press calling it Beatlemania.
Yes, well, we did a 5-day tour of Sweden to come back home to several hundred screaming fans at Heathrow Airport.
These fans got out of control. It got to the point where they had to use high-pressured water hoses to control them.
Wow, it looks like you have some dedicated fans.
We are the best fans in the world.
So for the past few months, your music has reached here in America and everyone's obsessed with it. You guys have become a huge hit.
Well, that's flattering to hear.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but we've been calling this the British invasion.
Yes, we're familiar with that term. It's fitting considering the amount of love we've received since our arrival to America.
Yes, weren't you greeted by over 3,000 fans in the JFK airport the first time you came to America?
Yeah, that was crazy.
I loved our first television performance on The Ed Sullivan Show.
You really made an impact on TV and even on the big screen with the success of your movie A Hard Day's Night. Tell us more about it.
Well, it was a mock documentary about our lives in the band. We were filmed throughout a few days during our career.
The film was really good. Nice to see a day in the life of the Beatles, right?
Yeah, it was nice to hear how much we actually do every day during our busy lives.
Well, I heard a nasty rumor about drug use in the band. Is this true?
Unfortunately, this is true.
How did this start? What happened?
Well, we had guests over one night for dinner, and apparently our dad just snuck LSD in George and my coffee. After drinking it, we sort of got attached to it. Ringo would join us occasionally.
Did you ever join in on this use, Paul?
I was reluctant at first, but eventually I did try it. It opened my eyes to what was happening in our society.
Well, we don't have time to talk about all of your awards, but didn't the Queen award you with one prestigious honor?
Ah, yes. She appointed us as members of the Order of the British Empire.
Wow, what a prestigious honor.
It really is, just like the time we performed with Elvis Presley. That was an exciting night.
Well, I've heard that your album Rubber Soul was ranked 5th among the top 500 albums of all time.
Yeah, well, as a band, we really matured in this album.
But that was also where Paul and I began to have conflict with the band.
As we all know, that was the height of your career, and unfortunately, all good things come to an end.
Well, I think after talking about it with the group, we all decided that our main problems were that we let the fame get to our heads and acted without thinking.
Really?
Our biggest mess-up was saying that we were bigger than Jesus Christ. When it was printed in the magazine, we got in a lot of trouble with the Catholic Church.
The Vatican Church banned our music. It was a tough time.
I could imagine.
Other things led to our decline, though. Our mess up in the Philippines by rejecting the nation's First Lady's breakfast reception, and our problem with the speakers in the arenas not being loud enough to drown out the crowd screaming. We just couldn't keep up with these issues and decided to make our 1966 tour our last.
What a shame that your career was ending.
We still recorded a few albums, and we made another film, The Yellow Submarine.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie. We were animated characters that needed to help the character Old Fred defeat the Blue Meanies from destroying the Blue Mountains.
Now back to business. That sounds like a really interesting movie.
Unfortunately, our career ended soon after.
Were there any complications during your musical career?
Well, we sort of lost interest in writing music with each other, and the relationship we had before began to crumble.
But despite these troubles, we wrote 2 more albums, Let It Be and Abbey Road.
Yeah, Abbey Road. That album was our most tightly constructed album.
Well, it says here that Abbey Road is considered to be one of the greatest albums of all time and one of your greatest albums. It also says that it went straight to #1 and it spent 11 weeks there on the UK charts. That's really impressive.
And the cover of the album is one of the most famous and one of the most imitated pictures in the world.
Yeah, it is. Abbey Road is a popular tourist site for our fans. They love to get in groups of 4 or 5 people and imitate our walk.
Maybe we should do that if we ever go to England.
I'd love to see that picture.
Well, moving on to your breakup.
Ah, yes. Well, we were growing distant as a band, and with the death of our manager, Brian Epstein, we just didn't know what to do. We got into much financial and legal issues.
We also started working on our own solo projects. Each of us had our own artistic vision and followed it.
Yeah, I officially left the band on April 10th, 1970. This and my self-titled album, McCartney, marked the breakup of the band.
It's sad to see a band that had such a big impact on music come to an end. Have there been any reunions or collaborations since your breakup?
There haven't been any reunions, but there have been collaborations. Paul and I actually recorded a song, A Toot and a Snore in '74 together. Ringo and George have also worked on other songs with us, but individually, not together as a group.
Well, it's nice to see that you guys have stayed in touch and have still had the privilege to make music together even after you guys broke up.
Even though we aren't together as a band, being able to see each other has been great.
Well, there you have it. You've just heard the story about the band that changed the way music was heard around the world forever.
Guys, the bands, they got through the security gates.